Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer Information Systems at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And this video is part 11 of a sequence of videos in which we're going to make a game called Boxxle / Sokoban. And we've already made it in GameMaker Studio 2, and we're porting it over into a C++ / SFML game engine. So where are we going? So what are we doing? So what are we trying to solve? We're trying to make a 720p resolution version of this. We've already made the level editor in the last video. So in this right now, we're in the process of porting this thing over into the taking that text file we've generated from the level and popping it in and making the game actually come up with actual objects, which eventually we'll be able to move around and interact. So remember, everything is 60 by 60 here. Again, 720p resolution. So the goal is to take this level as we see it and take that data and now create objects in the new scene and take that, move it from one place to another and generate the real deal level. Okay, so that's what we got going for us. So the only thing I went ahead and did ahead of time this time around was I just took the PNG files from the GameMaker Studio level editor, the box and the goal. Oh, does it work on my mouse? Oh, that's cool. Mouse over it. There's my goal. There's my hero. There's my wall. So I just brought those in to the same level. Like all of these files, everything is in one place right now. So everything is here, including the text files. There's the text file for all of the 3 levels. I'm only going to use 1 in this video, but we'll get to the other 3 in a little bit. We'll make it smart so we don't have to triple our work. Make it, you'll see when we get there. What else have I done? I moved all of the engine code. No, I didn't do it for source files, but I've just created a filter. It's nothing special about it. It doesn't modify. It's not a real folder. Like there's a difference between a folder in your resources when it comes to like setting up like a subfolder in the actual Windows Explorer versus just in this. This is just making things easier, just like a grouping in GameMaker Studio. So I've just been moving all the engine code over because we're getting closer now to having the code for the engine kind of merge with the code of the game. Not merge in per se, because there's going to be separate levels of code, but it's just the sake here of all the engine code should be separated from the game code, because at the end of the day, the engine should be reusable, the game not necessarily. Okay, so just to recap here, I've run this. And so here, this is what I've got going from the previous 2 videos ago now. I have my Samus object, and I have my circle object. And so we can start kind of tinkering with this a little bit and say we can finally get rid of the circle and say we won't kill it, but we'll kind of like just jam some new stuff in there. So I'm going to rename it to circle shape. I'm just going to rename this as box. And you'll see, and I'm just going to make sure I just circle shape.h becomes circle shape, or it becomes box.h and box.cpp. So now that I have that, I can go, okay, box. And I do not need to override any of these. This was just because I had a shape. And you're going to start seeing, like I said, this is going to start, everything is complicated as it is. It's going to start simplifying a little bit, just for a little bit. But the engine code is the hard part. The game we've already talked about, we've already discussed. It's our goal to make making the game as easy as possible once the engine is produced here. So, okay, box.h, that's all I need out of this thing. Box.cpp, I can get rid of all this stuff here. And so what I need to do, I can pass up. I mean box : box. And then I need box.h instead of circle shape.h. All right, and then I don't need shape anymore. That's not part of what we do. And I'm gonna pass along. Oh shoot! Now to do all these little things, all these moving parts and everything else. Eventually, the resource that I'm going to use is going to be called box. And remember that we can pass that up. SFML object is expecting a resource, which could be empty string if I wanted to be like a controller object. But in this case, I want the resource. I want the graphic resource associated with box to come along for the ride here. So let's fix this up, and then you can see how things can work here. So over here, I can get rid of circle shape, and I say, okay, give me a box. And this is going to crash. I'm going to eliminate Samus is going to be replaced in a moment too. We're going to get rid of that. But you can see that, oops, well, first off, I need to include box.h. Hold on a second. And then even this will still crash because, oopsie, it doesn't know what the texture is. It comes back as a null because I did not actually create the resource called box. So again, this is getting used to just the way my thought process and the way the engine works. We're going to have to put all the sprites in for all of the things that we're using. So it's very simple. The hard part is like this, is just remembering to do it. I'm going to need a box. I'm going to need a goal. I'm going to need a wall, and I'm going to need a hero. And so Samus can be left alone. And then box can just be box.png. Just make sure your names match up with what you got. I'm just trying to keep it simple for my own end. Box, box, goal, goal, wall, wall, hero, hero. And now this should work. And there's my box, because the texture manager loads in the texture for the box, and now I can actually go ahead and find the box in that map structure inside of the texture manager. So there is my box on the screen. And if I want to, I guess, like I could test it out for all of them if I wanted to, but no, I'm good for now. I don't need to worry about this. Okay, so that handles a box. So let's just kind of fill in the other three object types. I'm going to Samus, goodbye Samus. Samus is going to become, if I got a box, I'll make this the hero.h. And I'll make the Samus.cpp the hero.cpp. And so hero.h, class hero, hero, and then hero.cpp. And we're going to have to fix this up eventually anyway. So we'll pass up hero, because all those XY positions, where do they come from and where do they go? Where do they come from? Cotton Eye Joe. So let's see, I need hero.h. So let's see, and then coming back just to get this thing going, let me just say I need a new hero and a new, and let me draw the goal first. This is the tricky part. All these includes. If there were ever an easier way, but there generally isn't for this kind of stuff. So box needs hero. So let's see. So now you can see I draw my box and I draw my hero on top. So I'm making progress, right? Like we're getting somewhere now. Like I know it feels, what are we trudging through, right? But we're finally getting to places now. So let's see, we've got box, we've got hero. I can go ahead and add, I'll just say basically, can I copy this? I'll copy all the code, but I will add a new item called goal, goal.h, put this thing in here. Goal, and then create the CPP file. I could just steal this guy too, and just say add new item goal.cpp. Goal. Make sure you use the lowercase because it's case sensitive here. So goal. Make sure that I do hero right, hero, and box. Okay, so then I've got that going for me, and then just to finish up the deal, just do it one more time over for wall. Oops, that ain't right. So let's steal the hero again, copy you over, and just make this wall. And wall doesn't exist in the current moment, but it will. Okay, so steal this code one more time and create the wall.h file. And so just for the sake of making sure this works, let's say I get a new box, a new hero. Just draw everything on top of everything else. So we've already proven these two work, so I can comment them for the time being. And I want to try a wall, and I want to try a goal. So the goal should be drawn on top, but I have to make sure I include everything. And try this out now. And there is my wall, and there is my goal. So yes, all four of the objects that we are going to use, at least to get started here, we got the controller to worry about. This is all next week or next 5, how many videos. I don't know how many videos this thing's going to end up being, but that's a future problem. So I have the ability now to create all 4 object types. And that's a good step. And of course, you can only see 2 here because everything's drawing on top of one another. But now we need to worry about positioning. But again, this is not how this is supposed to work. So let me discuss now. Let's make it so we can change rooms. So instead of putting this in the game initialization room, because the only thing we should do in the game initialization room is initialize all the sprites we're going to use, and then we can shoot this thing off to say what room is the true first room of our game. And for the time being, it's going to be the game room level 001 room. Okay, so doing this process, creating a brand new room and allowing us to change from room to room, because game initialization room is just, again, our first frame kind of thing, just like the level editor in a way. It's just initialize everything, and then let's shift over, get the game data going, and then let's worry about the game. So we do have to tinker, we do have to tinker inside of the game class, and we also have to tinker inside of the room class to make this work. So I have a current room pointer, and it's not as easy as just saying, just changing things over, because there's timing that has to be involved, and there's for loops that could break everything. So we need to maintain a pointer to what theoretically should be the next room. Next room. Theoretically, right? So let's say theoretically, and then I got to go in and fill in something here. And you say theoretically, if you tell me it's a null pointer, that means there's no next room, which means let's stay in the room we currently are in. That's my thought process. So there's going to be a check somewhere in our code that says, if this next room is null pointer, don't do anything. But if it's something other than null pointer, change the current room to match the fact that we have a new room set up. And so things get a little tricky, but let's see. So we have the idea of a next room, and then we can have the idea here from the game class of the idea of change the room. So I have get current room, and I can have a void function that says change room. And as long as I pass in an SFL room pointer to the new room, everybody should be happy. So let's see, let's go ahead and implement this, move it over. Okay, where's fun is where did it go? There it is. Okay, so get current room and change room. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, okay, so it's one of those things like I'm just thinking up front, what happens in one game frame if 6 people try to change the room? And if I don't, so like because they're gonna new up the new rooms, new, and they're gonna try to change things. Because if I just went ahead and said current room, this is all I did, like I said, equals new room. Change the pointers out. Like, just do it. There's a huge memory leak going on here because you're not deleting out the old room. And then even if you survive the memory leak, the problem is your game is probably in some kind of loop structure, in a draw or in a step loop. And once I destroy all the objects and then I go back and try to continue through the loop, I have dangling pointers, the operating system is going to kick a fit. My program is done. My game is completely done. So all I'm doing here in the change room, I'm not actually doing any of the actual work of changing the room. I'm just going to say if this next room does not equal a null pointer, I'm going to delete it because this is, again, and so we'll fix it up here. So this basically is whoever asks last for, or it's one of those things like if 5 or 6 people in one game frame ask, who wins? Is it the first? Is it the last? I mean, how would you ever choose, right? It's almost never going to happen, but it could be catastrophic, especially as we're amateurs and we're just trying to get this thing going. So I say, oh, okay, so like maybe let's just say the first one wins. Instead of saying the last one wins, why don't we just say the first one wins? So if next room equals is null pointer, next room equals new room. So the first time someone goes, hey, let's try to change the room, you say, okay, it's null. It's right in the moment because we started out as a null pointer up top. And we say, okay, we can do it. And say, if it's null pointer, set it. And then the next time around, if someone else on this game frame goes, hey, let's try to change it, it's no longer null pointer. It will no longer apply. So the first one wins, and we're good. And so, ooh, that's not good though. And then so we do need an else here to say if that's not the case, I need to delete what I just generated, and again, it's not best practice, but we got to do what we got to do to make sure we don't have a memory leak. So it's say like, if it's the first room, set it. Otherwise, it's going to fall through. But if it falls through, there's nowhere to catch this thing to delete the whole room that was just generated. All that memory is just going to get erased because the pointer to the whole thing is going to get lost. Nobody's going to use it. So I can change my room now. And so now the last step here is how do I basically turn the current room into the next room. And so this is where we can go back into our code here, and after the draw, I'll call the function possibly change room, and we'll need to add that over here as part of the, and this could be a private function. This is not something that needs to be part of anybody calling anything here. So void possibly change room. Okay, and so, let's implement that. And so what am I doing here? It's basically the same kind of concept here. Whoop, I thought it would be down here. Where is it? Where did they put it? There it is. Okay, why is it there? I don't know. But next to the game, I guess. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to say if my next room, that's the is not equal to null pointer, then it's time to change rooms, and I'm going to say okay, delete current room, and then current room equals next room, and then I also have to say next room equals null pointer, because that's how I get back and say okay, there's no room to change into anymore because I already did it. And now it's up to somebody else to tell me to do it again. So two things here. The reason why I call the function I call the function after everything else is I want to make sure I'm out of every game loop. I want to make sure I'm out of the step loop, I'm out of the draw loop, I'm out of process events. I want it to be its own thing at the end of a game frame, or however you want it, like a tick, a game tick or something like that. That nobody's dependent on anything or any objects existing. So this is the time everybody's had their chance, and I can say, okay, this is a fresh chance to see, do I change over into a new room? Okay, and if so, then we've just showed here, if it's not equal to null pointer, if there is something to change into, we'll delete whatever's in the current room, we'll set the new current room, and we don't have to do anything more with that because the whole rest of the game loop now handles that pointer and all of the activities and objects stored within, and then now the next room, it's set back to null pointer. And so this shouldn't change anything in our game because it's just to make sure everything's still happy, and everything still is, because we don't have any code right now. So the game is going to have to interact with the room, and the room is going to have to interact with the objects to make this thing work. Eventually the objects, right now just the room. So the room is going to need to know about the game, which we can get. Do we have a get game? Like a get instance? Yes, we have a get instance. So we can get the game from the room and then say change room if we need to here. So so let me just pause my program here so I have a nice stopping point, and then now we can continue on with making this thing work. So now I'm inside of my room class because now the room is going to communicate with the game, and so I have my .h and my .cpp, so I have an instance create, but then now here's my chance to say change room, and I'm going to pass in an SFML room pointer. And I do need to include SFML room, or do I not? I guess not, because object, we'll see once we implement this thing. It's always interesting to see how that goes. So now I have this change room, and so now, yeah, I definitely need to get game. I don't have game listed in here, so I'll need to include SFML game so I can go ahead and get my singleton. But what I'm doing is it's just a delegation of fact here, and I'm saying, okay, get me, change room says SFML game, get instance, and then I can say change room to next room. So the room is communicating and just passing along information to say, okay, this is the room that I want to change into. Let's try to see if we can do it. Okay, so then coming back, that's pretty much it from the room standpoint that we need to add, like the room master base class. But now coming into our coming back to our game engine, game initialization room. So I say now I can call a function that says change room, right? Because now I have access to it, and I can say give me a new level 0, 0. I'll just call it game level for now. I'll call it Boxxle game level. That's what we'll end up calling this thing, which is I'll call it game level room, just so we're clear on that. And it doesn't exist, of course. And this, and of course we can move this over eventually, and we can get rid of, we'll get rid of that because we won't need that anymore. But we will need to include this Boxxle game room. So the whole idea now is let's create a room just like we've created this room. Let's create a new one, and let's move all the objects in there because that's where the game is going to take place. So this is it. The only thing that would ever change in here is what is the first real level of my game, the first real room. What is the first real room of my game? And then everything else that you would ever, add texture. All your textures go here. You could put them anywhere, but this is just a great place to put them because it's all in one place and you don't have to worry about it ever again. Okay, so now with all that said and done, now let's go ahead and create the game room. So it's like, let's move over in there. So now I'll need that as a header file. Add a new item. Let me just make sure I name it right here. Call it .h. Call it Boxxle game level room .h. All right. So I gotta include SFML room. And I have a class, and what did I call it already? I called it Boxxle game level room, which publicly derives from SFML room. And so it needs a constructor. And for the moment, that's all it needs. Okay. And so what did we have for the game initialization room.h? We have the exact same kind of stuff, right? Like we have a constructor and that's it. And I modified this so it's like you're never supposed to really touch this. You're only supposed to touch the .cpp file. This class is kind of like an intermediate between the game class and the framework class or the engine class. So it's kind of like right in that middle zone. So you can touch it, but you shouldn't do much more than just what you're told, at least in the current time. And we can refactor that later so that we don't have to worry about that. And it's not, none of this is ridiculously hard once you understand the architecture and you just kind of go and you're just master of your domain here and just going for it. Okay, so coming back, my Boxxle game room level, I will need to generate that file, and I will need to generate that CPP code. Yep, I want to save that, and there is Boxxle game level. And now this is where, after all that, what did I copy? What did I, yep, I do have something like this. Okay, cool. So coming back here, I'm going to need to include, because this is a game level, my box.h. I'll need to include my wall.h. Oops. And I'll need to include my goal.h. and my hero.h. All right, so then now I can create a new box. And now, does it work? That's a big question, right? And the answer is it running? I can't tell. So do you guys see what's going on? It's like it continually reloads everything going on. And I laughed because, oh my goodness, yeah, but it's just, if you've ever worked with Unreal or Unity, and I really haven't, but I've seen this issue pop up, and GameMaker is the same kind of way. There's a difference between the way a constructor works and the way that the system actually loads the data. So like, there's a reason why a lot of the newer, the good engines do not allow you access to like the pure constructor. And that's because under the hood, there's a lot going on that we're not accounting for. And this is just one of those cases where I bit myself in the butt by just going a little too far and too fast, or whatever you want to call it. And what happens is by putting this change room in the constructor, especially when everything is loading up, the first time I call init, like what, you know, like if the first time I call the run function or get the get instance for the game, and it's generating itself and it's generating the new room, but then it's also generating the next room, and there's just too much going on and all these pointers and all this memory that hasn't been allocated yet. And it just puts up this point where it just flashes, and you can watch the memory. I didn't watch my computer just go to crap. I kind of quit at about half a gig because I'm like, it's only going up, it's never going to stop. So I'm like, well, how do I fix this? And there's a reason why there's like a create function in GameMaker. It's not a constructor, it's a create function. And like there's on create, and there's all these other things in all these different engines. And it's the same reason. The pure constructor does some work. And so like the constructor, if I wanted to, like I said, this can go anywhere. This does not impact anybody, but maybe everything should go into the step event, but it seems to be working. But all I did now here was generate, oh, I need game initialization room.h, not that one. This one here, I just overrode the step function that's part of the general room, because the only thing I need to do in the step is to change over. I don't have to do anything more. What is the first real room? And now that laughter that became more tears as I was sitting here for 10 minutes trying to figure this out, now we're where we need to be, because now when I change the room in the step event, the game class, you say we can go here and see the game class now. We say like the game class will generate now. There's my instance create. Go up to SFML room, instance create box. Go in, and now I can say let's change room. And a minute ago I changed this code a second ago just to test it out. I could put it back now, but just to say okay, get the instance. And now a minute ago it was always null, because everything was just cycling upon each other. But now the instance is no longer a null instance, so there's no longer this infinite loop or stack overflow. It's a really slow stack overflow, but I'm returning the instance, and now I can change room. And this is where I wasn't going a minute ago. It would just keep cycling me through. So I want to go to this new room, which is of type Boxxle level game room. So I say, okay, right now next room's a null pointer, so I can say, okay, you're on the slate. Next time, if you want to try, we can go ahead. And let's see, go ahead and current room.step, fall through, process events, go into the draw, or while, okay, while, okay, whoops, okay, so that's okay. Step event. And so now everything's happy. Let me just run this. Let me just get rid of this. Let me just put this back and say, and then it knows to move over to that room because there's nothing in here that runs it. And so everybody's happy. It moves into the Boxxle game level, and now we're ready to move on. So that's just the key here. And again, this is just the stability of a new system, right? Like we just discovered something that I didn't encounter kind of ever before, and it just that's why we call it practice, right? That's why it's not a science per se. It's computer science, but we're practicing. This is more of a practice. Okay, so coming back to it now. Now I have my game. I have it working because I can go into my Boxxle game room, and here I have my instance create, and now we can start tinkering for real and start changing everything else up. So just a little bit more to go for now. And so now what I can do is I can open up this file, so I can include file stream or input file stream. And so std : if stream file, and I'm going to open it. This is, again, we're just hard coding it for now. We'll pretty it up later. Give me that file. What's wrong? Oh, not ifstream, or just, it's been a while. I C++, I've been doing assembly language. It's been rotting my brain for a while. I want input file stream. Nope, I just want file stream. Okay, so, all right, fine, fair enough. File.close. And so what we're going to do here is just say while file.eof equals false. And so all the names of everything are, they're space separated, so there's no spaces in my variable name. So I can just use string. I think I'll have to include string here. Do it anyway. So then I can do, okay, file into, and I need a string. And then I can do, I need int values for x, and I need an int value for y. Let's just do this in one swoop, shall we? And let's just see where the chips fall if this is working for us. And again, right now it's just hard-coded because I'm a little off just because I didn't get that thing working a second ago. So name is quote unquote, x is negative, y is negative. So this is not working for me. Did I not name my level correctly? Level 001 room.txt. That's why you put that's why you put that little if check in here. If file.goodbadfail, then I could just do something here. I can put a breakpoint in here at the moment just to see if I'm getting this to work. And now I think it probably will work. Okay, good. And now what do I see? Name is goal, x is 780, y is 480, like I'm expecting, because I'm pulling information out of level 1 room.txt, goal 780, 480, and so forth and so on. And so now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to fill in the gaps here. Oh goodness, right? So, and again, this is just all hard-coded for now. So yeah, I say to do something with this, crash the system, or I don't know what. What if the file doesn't open, right? So do something if the file doesn't open. Okay, so now all we have left to do here is just some kind of if statement here, and literally is just saying if, and if all that's left to do, there's still one more big step left to go here. If the name is equal to box, then we're gonna, let's see, instance create, new box. We don't have any parameters yet. We're gonna fix all this up. There's one last big step, because you're like, well, how do we know where the x and y goes? Oh, geez, right? So else if box wall hero, make sure I do everything, and then box wall hero goal, lowercase g. Everything's lowercase and uppercase on the object names. Okay, so box wall hero goal, box wall hero goal. Okay, does that build? All right, so what do we get? Let's just find out. I don't know. Let's find out what happens when we run this. I have myself. What is it doing? Let's find out. File. What if let's see, if, oh, it's not doing anything at all. What is my name? Box. Oh, I did capitalize everything. Oh, so it was doing everything correctly. My bad. I should look at my text file. Let's take a look. Yeah, everything's uppercase. So text, I say like for assembly language, case sensitivity, it's not there, but it is there in this case. So let's see now. All right, phew, maybe a little better. Let's see, print, and now again, we're only going to see one thing because everything is being generated at 0, 0. So everything in the whole world is being printed on top of each other, and so whatever's the last item in that entire text file is going to be what prints. However, if we go back to our room and just say for every object in my scene, draw, you can see I have 187 objects in my scene, in my room here, and you can see all of them if you want to. You can go in. So I'm fairly confident that through all this blundering that I'm making progress. So now it's just a matter of putting the objects into the correct positionings in space. And so to fix that up, we got to start with the object and work our way back, because the object class needs to set up positioning. So what can I do? Let me find my object.cpp and my object.h. So coming off here, there's my object.h. Where's my object.cpp? I'll drag it over here. So what do I need to do? So when I set up an object, I now need to pass more information into it. I'm already passing what resource do you want to use, what PNG, what graphical resource. But now on top of everything else, I need to pass in what X value do you want and what Y value do you want. And you're like, well, how do I fill this in? And you're like, yeah, makes sense. You don't necessarily know how to do that yet. And so let's try it out. And so with this, I don't need this here per se. I don't need to, right now I don't need to initialize something. Oh, shoot, I'm going to have to do this because of the way I do the null terminator here. I'm going to need an X and a Y, and then I'm going to need our default parameter. You got to put the default parameter as the last item. So I can say int X, int Y, and then there's my resource string. And so now all this yada 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 sprite stuff, and I go, okay, sprite set position. And now here it is. Can I just give an X and a Y? I can just give an X and a Y. And so just for the brief moment there, we can, until the next videos will be trying to make this thing, give this thing some more functionality. So my set position X, Y, but I'm like, well, of course this breaks. What does this break? It breaks over here. Where does it break? Because now the goal objects require an X and a Y value. So I say like it's going to be 3 steps to make this thing work. So I have to fix this thing up. I have to fit, okay, so I have, for the goal, I need to pass in an int for the X and an int for the Y, pass the X and the Y up to object. And so now, this is where all these different files, all this different fun here. Where's my goal.h? So now this requires int X, int Y, all the object types. Goal, let me just, since I have this, I can just copy paste this. So my hero is going to need it, my wall is going to need it, every object is going to need it because it needs to know where it's expected to go on the screen when it gets created. And the resource string is handled automatically, so I don't necessarily have to worry about this. So box is taken care of, goal is taken care of, hero and wall. Okay, on the .h side, now we just got to fix up the .cpp. So put that in here, pass that along. Goal is done already. Hero, got to fix that up. X and Y goes in, X comma Y. Wall goes in, fix that up. X comma Y, and now we're still, we try it again, because we did everything we did on that level, and now we're still remaining here. There should crash. Okay. And so now it just comes down to, for these 4 constructions, I'm not passing the appropriate parameters in. So now I can use the X and the Y from where the file comes from. Ta-da! There we go. So we have everything working now. That one little hiccup that made me cry and made me sweat a little bit, thinking I have to think about a new job since I couldn't figure that out. But we got it working. That's part of being a programmer, is working through those issues. But here you go. Everything you see here is everything in that file, right? You open up GameMaker, there it is. It looks exactly the same. That's level 1. And there we go. We have all of our objects in from the level editor. Now we have them in our true game world, and we have them exactly where they're supposed to go. And now we're ready to take this to the next level. So I don't know, how long was this video? This one's a little longer, quite a bit longer than others. So take a while, take a little break. I'm taking a break. Go be with my wife and kids for a little bit and think about other things. Even though this is fun, this is challenging, and it's stress level. I wish I could see what my heart rate is right now. But as always, if any of this didn't work out for you, if I missed something or I went too fast so you couldn't see a little bit of code, send me an email at swardb@cod.edu. Send me a comment. I will tell you how to fix whatever issues that you're having, because this was definitely more involved, because we were tinkering with so many things to get this thing kind of working together. But again, you get it to this level, you get it to where I am, where you can get that on the screen. And again, the engine code we write once, and now we don't have to worry about that ever again. Now we just have to worry about working with the rooms and working with the objects. Like once this gets moving, we still have to worry about, speeds and distances and all sorts of collision events and things like that. But we're still getting closer to our end result. So again, engine once, That's it. It's tricky, but that's all we have to do. So, okay, we'll see you next time in the next video. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one.